did a shop update not too long ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought this is kind of what I've been missing doing, and I want to do some more shop updates. So I was thinking, yeah, instead of waiting for everything to get finished and done, let me just kind of bring you guys along and, you know, share what's been going on in the shop. Last time you were in here, this looked very different. Remember, we had kind of like a plastic tent over the laser engraver, and I was saying that this is an improvement. It's not a forever solution, but it's much better than what was there before, which was nothing. And look at it now. Now it's like completely different. So what do we have here? We basically have a frame, we have plywood on the sides, and then we have Lexan on 3 sides, on this side, on this side, and on this side. And that's just connected with screws to these wooden pieces. And then right in the top here, there's a hole cut and a mount for the dust hose, or the smoke hose in this situation. So to cut this hole, I used a hole saw, which is actually used that hole saw before to cut holes in the walls too, to vent this out. So it's like a perfectly round, beautiful hole. You can lift this up, and you can lean it against there, and that way you can operate here, you can deal with this, and it's out of the way. And then when it becomes time to actually cut, you it's like open this up, and I just like the smoke smell, comes at you. But then you close it and put this back in, and you are ready. So right now on the CNC here, I have 3/4 inch plywood, because right here we need a better table. So initially I was thinking about a different design, where instead of the hose coming on top, we had a downdraft table. So it was kind of sitting on a box, and this came from underneath, and there was like lots of holes. And that way this could have been completely open, because the smoke would have just like been brought down. It would have been sucked up, right? But the more I started thinking about that, I didn't really like that. What I want to do here is build a table with drawers underneath to store a lot of this material and just organize things better. And what I really mean is, if you put a downdraft system underneath, you wouldn't have room for any drawers and storage. And also I want to be able to have the table on wheels, so that we can open up the garage doors and then just roll out the table and cut outside. Not for the one-off thing, but we're gonna cut like a bunch of boxes soon, like a whole production thing. And then I figured it'd be easier and nicer just to do that outside and not have to bother with this at all. Obviously it's large. It works really well. So you can see on the sides here, it's not even completely tight. There are some holes on the sides, on both sides, right there. And at first I had capped those or brought it all the way, but then there was too much suction. Like this whole thing just kind of like was brought in. And like now with these open, it's still like a ton of suction. So it actually needed to have a little bit of space in order for the air to kind of like vent out. Like you can see here too, we blocked it from the back side so that you can sit in the office area, work on the computer or whatever, and use this. Obviously you wouldn't want to walk around right here without glasses on when you're using it, but in there is fine. So it's funny, like you come in here right after the machine has been going, and you barely smell any smoke. like with the tent situation, I mean, that was really good. Like you could smell a little bit. It wasn't working nearly as well as this. Plus this is just really neat and clean. That looked kind of messy. So all in all, really well. So what are we cutting here? Well, I was talking last time in my shop update about these boxes that we're doing for the spinning tops. So that is one of those things. Also working on using this for engraving in addition to the CNC machine. So one of the things that we're working on right now in the shop are these wax pots. Just talked about these wax pots a little bit in one of my latest videos where I made the table. But here you can see we have a whole range of little beautiful boxes. So these are to hold wax polish, right? This is a product that we created last year for the holidays. These are maple, but now we have a variety of woods. So this is to fill with our own wax polish. When you cut this on the CNC, you don't get super sharp corners. You get slightly rounded corners because the bit is round, right? So each lid needs to be worked on with a chisel to kind of square it up a little bit in order for the lid to fit. One of the woods here, actually I brought in my pocket. So here you can kind of see what this looks like. So you can see that it says wax pot and it says Darbin Orvar. And this is done on the laser engraver. It's filled with mineral oil polish. Now the question, what kind of wood is this? Now, one of my favorite things about having, a YouTube channel is that every now and then you get contacted by people who, either want to just say nice things or occasionally want to send you stuff. And it's the most fun ever. It's like Christmas pretty much. And a while ago, I had this viewer contact me from Ireland. His name was Eowyn. So if I probably butcher your name, sorry. But he wrote and asked if I would like some green heart. And I've, never played with green heart. And I was kind of expecting a tiny little package, like a small piece of wood, because, wood is expensive to ship. And this is particularly heavy. And this is what he sent me, but it was actually larger when he sent it because I've used some of it. And I was debating for some time what to make with it, because you don't want to waste it or anything. But then I was thinking that it'd be really cool to make some wax pots with it. So I actually have a couple more here too. And the wood is definitely quite tropical. It's very, it's quite splintery and kind of oily, if you know what I mean. It has a very particular tropical sense to it. Hard to work with, of course, tropical woods are always hard to work with, hard on your tools, but then in exchange, of course, you get that really nice, interesting finish, where you don't really need a finish, because there's so much kind of oils in the wood already. I just tend to finish these pots with wax polish. In the past, I carved in on the CNC. So this one says Darbin Orvar on it, and I carved it rather large. And I do like the carving. I do think it adds kind of a cool touch. But what's so interesting about the laser engravers, of course, you can, get so much more detail. I mean, just look at this guy here. I can do a font, like a very specific font, and I can write Darbin Orvar really small. I can write wax pot. Here's a unfinished version of it. So you can just tell on the wood by looking at it just how very splintery and, it is. We have a bunch of maple. So yeah, now we're gonna have some special green heart, got cedar. This is like a mahogany. So got a couple different wood species. Another project that I've been working on a little bit, I was debating about whether to even mention it because it doesn't seem like a really kind of, interesting project, but it's very functional. I'm having guests come in a couple of days, and I realized that I don't have enough sleeping spaces for everybody. I was thinking, well, I need another bed. So I was thinking, okay, how can I put together a bed really quickly, rather cheaply? Might as well just cut this up out here. I have my cut list, and it's basically just going to be 2x4s and screws. At first I was going to use plywood, but you know what, I really dislike plywood, especially plywood that's not so great. I don't know. Just thought I would do a 2x4 bed. And I was thinking to myself, if I could have used 2x6s for certain parts to make it a little bit nicer. At the same time, I don't know, I just thought it was easier to just pick up a whole bunch of 2x4s. So basically it's as basic as it can possibly get. So we're gonna make a frame out of you know, everything is 2x4s. And then here we have the legs. So it's just going to be together like this. And we're going to put one of these in each corner. So we're just going to assemble some legs first. I have some screws, 2.5-inch screws. I was debating about whether to do pocket screws, but I was like, I don't even really feel like messing around with pocket screws. So I went and picked up 9 2x4s and a box of screws. And that's pretty much it. So what is that in terms of cost? 9, like 30, it's like 36, and then like under $50 for a twin size bed. We explain the fundamental design. We make a basic frame with 2x4s. Long ones measure 77 inches, short ones that fit inside measure 36 inches. Now we take one 2x4, 74 inches long, and rip it down the middle. Now we have 2 pieces. We position them inside the frame, leaning on one of the slats just as a placeholder. Slats, by the way, measure 36 inches. Then we secure the rails with screws. Rip another piece that measures 32 by 5 inches in half and attach those the same way on the short sides. Now we have a frame with a ledge on the inside. The legs can now rest on the ledge, as can the slats. So now we flip the frame around and rest the legs, which by the way measure 11 1/8 inches, on the inside of the rails and screw them down. Now we have an open frame on legs, and we can space out our 9 rails and screw those down as well. And we're done. While it's nothing revolutionary of any sort, sometimes that's what you want, right? You want something really basic and functional and pretty quick. And in order to do this project, all you need to do is to cut a bunch of wood up. I was thinking that if I really wanted to use less wood, you know, you could have resawed wood, especially for the slats, and you could have maybe bought 2 less 2x4s or something like that. So I mean, you could have, you know, used a little bit less wood if you wanted to. Maybe it was a little overbuilt. But I was more going for, like, you know, efficiency. So I figured it's easier just to pick up an extra 2x4 or 2 than playing around with resawing and all of that. So that's working out pretty good. Actually, let me show you. So this is what I call the college dorm. It's a little bit on the rustic side, but basically we have 2 beds here now. Before we just had the one. On top of the workshop here, I really want to completely change this space and make it more like a kind of like a workspace, but more of a cleaner workspace for things. Maybe even add some, I don't know, workout equipment would be kind of cool. Have like options for the guest space. I don't know, rethink that. So it's kind of a cool space up here actually. There's lots of options for things. Hence the, let's now make a really nice bed here, if you know what I mean. I guess the thing about a bed, once you have all your mattress and covers and sheets and everything, you can't really see the way it's constructed, but you got an idea on the footage before, right? So in the last shop update, I briefly touched on homeschooling because we homeschool our 5-year-old son, almost 6-year-old. And there seemed to be quite a lot of interest about that, so I was just thinking I would share a little bit of what we're doing right now. So one of his big things right now is working on the Raspberry Pi. It just kind of reminds me what a great tool electronics are for small kids, especially before, you know, you really feel comfortable with them working with a lot of tools and stuff like that. So we're running Bookworm on here. This is a Raspberry Pi 4, and we're currently overclocking it. We got a fan and a heatsink. So it runs pretty good. We're currently running Visual Studio Code, so he's kind of learning how to move around within that, and also playing some games. You know, started out with rather basic games, but now he found another game that he likes, that you build some sort of world. And the funny thing is, I mean, I guess it all goes back to what you expose kids to, right? Like, he's not used to like fancy video games at all. And he's not used to regular computers, like where you can do a lot of things. So to him, a Raspberry Pi, like a black screen, is really, really cool. He even has like a little Etch-a-Sketch, and whenever he's now working on this for real, he pretends that he's, you know, writing code on his Etch-a-Sketch. So we're doing that. Another thing we're kind of working on right now, this, by the way, is our blackboards. And I think actually this is the project on the video on the channel, and we have a bunch of these blackboards, and we have them in every, like, I have one in my little shop, we have one in the playhouse, we have a couple in the house. They're so great for whenever you want to like go over concepts, or you're working on something, you need to bring notes. I kind of feel like eventually I want to make this a product and sell it in the shop, because I think it's the perfect size and feel, and we're using oak for this. Okay, but what's on the table? So currently we're working on timetables a little bit, where we're going over the difference between multiplication and addition. Like 3 times 1 is 3, which is the same as 3 plus 0. He's very much into 0 right now, and he always starts counting at 0. So 3 times 2 is 6, which equals 3 plus 3. So like we're just kind of like going over how they relate to each other. That is his favorite thing right now. It's sitting in the shop here and working on the Raspberry Pi and like writing code and pretending to write code and moving between directories. But homeschooling has been kind of a fun subject that we have kind of gotten into, and we're not really doing it a lot. You know, he's still really young. So we're just kind of introducing concepts and playing with things and yeah, doing what's fun for a lot of the time. And right now Raspberry Pis are really fun. So anyway, Christmas season is almost coming up, and we have a bunch of products going out soon, including the spinning tops, which I've been talking about. I talked about them a bunch in the other shop update, but I kind of work on a video about that too. Now we're gonna have some visitors come for a while, so I'm gonna be you know, showing them around a bit too, which is gonna be fun. But yeah, hope you're having a good day. Let me know if you have any questions or any thoughts in the comments below. And I'll see you guys soon. On a completely separate note, if there are any people out there watching who also does like editing and stuff, I'm just kind of debating about what software to get now. So I've been using Premiere Pro, you know, the Adobe suite for years, which has been great, but I'm getting a little bit annoyed of paying like yearly, you know, to use the software, to use this suite with all their programs. And so I'm looking for another option for Windows. Now, I don't care about paying for it once. I just don't want to pay for it every single year, or every month, you know. So I'm just looking into different options. One of the things I'm kind of debating about is the DaVinci one. That one seems like a really good one, like really comparable. I was also looking at one called Power Director. I don't know, it's kind of a jungle out there. It's hard. I was feeling it's hard to find information, and it's, you know, I'm going to spend so much time in front of the computer on whatever program I choose. So if anybody have any input, any recommendations on any good softwares for editing for Windows that you can just purchase once and not ongoing, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.